Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. Let's take a look at our solar wind speed right now at SPACEWEATHER.com. Speed sitting at 299.4 kilometers per second with a density of 4.8. Also, taking a look at our sun. Once again, we are blank. And guys, this sun is very quiet right now, as we'll go into a little bit more in depth and take a look at the possible outlook over the next several days. But we are at sunspot 0. This is 2 days in a row. 2 days for 2019 at 22%. Our TCI has fallen as well, down to 33.8 billion watts. And taking a look at our KP indices at a 1 and a 24-hour max is at a 2. This is what the SDO has in store right now, a coronal hole that should have solar wind stream increased speeds by the 12th of January. Not yet predicting any kind of geomagnetic activity. Take a look at this. We had some very minor B-class and C-class flares on January 5th and 6th. And as we look at today's stats, well, guys, it's pretty quiet. Let me go ahead and expand this just a little bit and show you guys the bottom here. I guess that's as good as it gets. But the KP indices have been sitting at the 1 level since, late January 7th into early January 8th. And as you see, the solar X-ray flux, the flare class, at almost a non-existent level at this point. So, like I said in the beginning, we are looking at a quiet sun. And as we wait for that to come back, I'll go ahead and take a look at the SDO in motion. There is that coronal hole that we are seeing that is directly just below the equatorial region here. So it will affect our magnetosphere at the worst, just slightly though, nothing major at this point. Very, very narrow hole. It does not look to be anything impressive as far as solar wind speeds to be increased or whatnot. Other than that, guys, it's quiet. We'll go back to grandsolarminimum.com and take a look at what we have coming, and absolutely nothing. Nothing to be concerned of. There's our active region that's already passing through. And like I said, nothing to really focus in or pay attention to. I will note that we are starting to see sunspots further north of the equatorial region, so that's something we'll continue to monitor as well. Taking a look at TSI for January 1st, 2019, and we start off the new year at 1360.7015. So we've had a little bit of an increase. 1360.7334 was the peak, and that was right before December 30th of 2018. But as of right now, we are looking at TSI values sitting just at the 1360.7015 value. All right, we got a lot to go over. We got a couple things from yesterday's news and today's news. But let's start with today's news. Unprecedented sandstorms hit Thurso, Scotland. It says here a severe thunderstorm or a severe storm hit Scotland on January 7th, producing what Thurso locals described as unprecedented sandstorms. According to residents, a few months ago, the sand never made its way into the town, not even during the worst of the storms. However, a storm that hit the town on January 7th produced a wind gust of more than 80 miles an hour, lifting up tons of sand. According to the Press and Journal, Highland Council deployed 9 men, 3 lorries, and 2 excavators to Thurso seafront to clear sand from the roads, footpaths, and road drains as well. It says here, I've spoken to a 76-year-old lady and a 102-year-old man, and they've told me this is unprecedented. Local councillor Matthew Rice had said, I've seen drifts of sand of 2 feet deep and gardens and flower beds covered in 2 to 3 inches of sand. Locals say they fear something has happened to cause the beach level to build up slowly in the bay over the past couple of years, and that sandstorms might occur more frequently. It says here the storm also affected other parts of the region, leaving some 11,000 customers without power, and several schools were closed. We'll leave the link in the description here, and as we talk about a sandstorm here, let's take a look at some of the footage here. Let's get some sound. Not common for this part. Unprecedented. Could you imagine living here all your life, especially the 76-year-old and 102-year-old person, never seen anything like this before? Kind of weird. While we're talking about it in Scotland, let's talk about it in New South Wales as well. Massive dust storm swept over parts of New South Wales, Australia on January 8th, 2019, turning the sky dark red and causing thousands of homes to lose power. BOM spokeswoman said the cause of the Mars-like conditions were from strong winds produced by a thunderstorm. They lifted the dust off the ground and blew it around. She said the peak of the storm, more than 5,000 homes were left without power. Most of the outages were repaired by the end of the night. Some spooky pictures coming in here from Australia. According to the Cairns Post, Timora, Araya Park, Bear Ellen were hit by huge dusty clouds that turned skies a deep red. Residents say although dust storms in this area are frequent, they have never seen this one as intense as this was. One of the residents said the storm was quickly over as it began. Everything picked up for a minute and all of a sudden it was gone. So kind of two freakish storms here within days apart, different parts of the world. However, just interesting to see two headlines with dust storms involved. Sticking with the Watchers.news, they had a lot to report as well over the last couple of days. This one caught my eye. This one's not so much grand solar minimum related, but asteroid 2019 AS5 flew past Earth at a very close distance of a 0.04 lunar distance. For those of you wondering actually how far that is, that's 9,295 miles. That's very close. Now, I'll read the article and I'll share my thoughts about this. This was a small asteroid first observed at Mount Lemmon Survey 9 hours after it flew past us. So they observed it 9 hours after it passed. It belongs to the Apollo group of asteroids and has estimated diameter of 3.1 to 6.8 feet. So it is a small one, about the size of a human, a small human. The asteroid flew past the Earth at the speed relative of Earth of 12.52 kilometers per second, and that was at 0037 UTC on January 8th. And we can see here in these diagrams just how close. Look at that. Already mentioned, this is the first known asteroid to fly by the Earth within one lunar distance this year, and the closest since February 24th, 2018. And that's all it really talks about. The other one that flew by that was close, December 28th, 2018, was 0.51 lunar distance, and 2019 AW2 was at 0.43 lunar distance. The one in February 24th. Now, again, 9,000 miles is pretty close. Mari, I know you've been on YouTube a little bit longer than me, and you used to follow the asteroid stuff. Do you remember ever hearing an asteroid coming that close?
How close was that one?
9,295 feet. And there was not really much
close,
talk about
I mean,
this.
I think I actually have seen some that have come closer. I'm not sure about the size. I haven't looked at that. I've been just monitoring the chat, but I used to follow the NEOs on a daily basis just to see, and they don't really concern me that much anymore. The ones that should concern people are the ones that aren't on the NEO list, the surprise ones.
And I think this one here, like I read here earlier in the article, that it wasn't even observed until 9 hours after it flew by. So,
yeah.
Close call. No reason to be upset or scared, but just still very close compared to some of these other lunar. I mean, we're talking 0.51 lunar distance. Okay, this one's 0.04 lunar distance, 9,295 feet away. 9,295 miles away from the Earth.
Yeah, well, if it's miles, yeah.
Yeah, if it's feet, that's scary. Sorry about that.
Okay, all right.
I might have misspoke on that, but still, 9,295 miles is still pretty close when you look at everything else. Taking a look at another article here from Watchers.news. Powerful eruption from Manam. Volcano ash up to 55,000 feet. Here in the PMG, according to the Darwin VAC satellite, imagery suggests volcanic ash rose up 55,000 feet above sea level. The center reported 22:59 UTC discrete volcanic ash 55,000 feet and 42,000 feet as expected to dissipate within 6 to 12 hours, continuing VA to 9.1 kilometers, 30,000 feet, is extending east. Heightened forecast based on their satellite imagery here. Volcanic ash is difficult to discern due to the meteorological cloud, the center reported around 3:59 UTC January 8th. However, the eruption is thought to be ongoing, 30,000 feet, extending northeast. Volcanic ash 55,000 feet and 42,000 feet has now dissipated. Satellite imagery at 6:15 UTC indicated volcanic ash had dissipated, while hotspot remains visible. Volcanic ash advisory was terminated. This was the highest ash plume produced by this volcano since 2015, when that one was as high as 65,000 feet. That volcano, last powerful eruption on Manam, was on December 8, 2018. Heavy ashfall was reported, falling on the island and blocking out sunlight. Volcanic ash rose 45,000 feet above sea level, according to the Darwin VAC, forcing authorities to raise aviation color code to red. And again, thanks to the Watchers.news with all the geological information they have about this volcano. Just, again, another 55,000 footer going off once again. And this one coming from my home state, rare January tornado hits Ohio's Trumbull County. Now, this is in the northeastern part of the state. I lived in the far southwestern part. But to get an EF1 tornado that touched down on January 8th, that is kind of a freak incident for any part of Ohio, especially in the northeast. According to the data provided by the National Weather Service, the tornado touched down at 10:25 Eastern Time, January 8th, and moved eastward across Mosquito Creek Lake and into western part of Cortland. It knocked down numerous trees and wires and caused significant damage to cemetery building just west of Mosquito Creek Lake, along with some other minor property damage. The tornado was on the ground for about 4.5 miles and had a maximum path width of 75 yards and a maximum wind speed between 150 and 160 kilometers, which is right around 95 to 100 miles per hour. Now, this was a morning tornado as well, folks. Picture of tornado around 10:30 in the morning here. January 8th, not June 8th. Here is the storm on radar that produced.
Hey everyone, Dave here in the Weather Center. Pretty rare occurrence
How you doing,
here
Dave?
in Ohio for the month of January. On Tuesday morning, we had a tornado touchdown in the northeast part of the state. Now there
wasn't even any severe thunderstorm warnings or anything, so that's the crazy part too. It's very uncommon for tornadoes to occur in this part of the country during January. Only 6 tornadoes have been reported in January across Ohio between 1950 and 2018. According to WKBN, Columbus, Ohio, a tornado warning was up for the Greenville area in Mercer County on that same day. Now, Greenville is about an hour, 40 to an hour away from the Dayton area, northwest in the western part of the state. Very rural area as well. This was the first January tornado warning issued by the Pittsburgh National Weather Service since at least 1986. I'll leave the link in the description, but very odd. We were just talking about the lack of tornadoes this year, the lack of damaging tornadoes, and then we have this rare EF1, and the fact that it's not just an EF0, but an EF1 rated tornado. Pretty strong, if you ask me, for this time of year, especially this time of year. And even during storm season, guys, I mean, let's not get this wrong here. Even during the spring and early summer, this area is not prone for tornadoes whatsoever. Heavy rain, snow, cold grips North India, temperatures up to 10 degrees below normal right now. That's 15 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Says here, Indian states of Jammu, Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, as well as part of Uttarakhand, have been witnessing rain and snow over the past couple of days. Almost all the well-known hilly resort cities, including, and there's a long list of them, Pagram, Srinagar, Shimle, Manali, Kulo, too much to mention here, but tons of provinces and cities here in India getting a lot of action right now. While rain and snow is expected to ease off on January 9th and 10th, another active system is expected to affect the region from Friday, January 11th to Sunday, January 13th, bringing widespread rain and snow. talking about intensity, the weather activity will be at its extreme on January 12th, slightly reduced on January 13th, and by the 14th, we can expect slight chances of clearer weather. However, chances of long clearance are completely ruled out, meteorologists have said. Tourists are advised to avoid going to the hills this weekend due to the upcoming spell of rain and snowfall. We'll leave the link in the description. And while we're on the subject of cold weather, we want to mention the winter storm blasts in Europe. 13 or what's being reported right now is the death toll. A lot of us in the community have said this before, and will continue to pound this message. If you have neighbors who might be of an elderly age, or maybe people that have physical needs, maybe some handicaps, please check on them. Go over there once a day at least. Knock on the door, make sure they're okay, make sure they don't need anything. If it's a lot of snow, they might be stranded in, they can't get around, get certain supplies, as long as it's safe for you to do as well. But this time of year, and we've always warned people about the cold as well. To me, it seems like we hear more about cold weather-related illnesses, injuries, and deaths than we do about heat records and such. But anyway, hundreds of people were snowed in the alpine regions and warned of high risk of avalanches. Parts of Scandinavia were left without electricity, and high winds caused flight delays and cancellations in the Netherlands as the deadly winter weather continued to blast Europe on Tuesday. Several people have already been killed in weather-related incidents over the last week, and in Norway, attempts to find the bodies of 4 skiers were again put on hold due to poor visibility and heavy snowfall. A 29-year-old Swedish woman and 3 Finns, aged 29, 32, and 36, were presumed dead after a 990-foot wide avalanche hit their Tomok Valley near the northern city of Trebos last week. In Austria, hundreds of residents were stuck in their homes due to blocked roads. Some regions were experiencing power outages after snow-laden trees took down power lines. Schools in some Austrian regions remained closed for a second day, and homeowners were advised to remove snow from their roofs after several buildings had collapsed. A 78-year-old man was severely injured while he fell off his roof of his home in Turek while shoveling snow, Austrian public broadcast reported. On Monday night, 11 German hikers had to be rescued from the mountains from a cabin near Salzburg. We reported on that. Several people were killed by avalanches in recent days, and authorities warned continuing snowfall increasing high risk of more avalanches. In southern and eastern Germany, people are also bracing for further snowfall, while in the northern coastal city of Hamburg, residents were preparing for a storm flood caused by a winter gale, the German news agency DPA reported. We talked about this a little bit Monday, how this region was expected to see more of heavy snow, more of the cold weather, and this is going to continue to pile up. Our thoughts and prayers are with these folks. Hopefully that they can get some of these roads cleared. As we said, some people are still trapped in parts of Austria because of how much snow they've had. They had 3 to 6 feet of snow in 1 week, with the continuance of more heavy snow that has fallen since we first reported on this. We'll leave the link in the description, as there's a lot more information about everything that's happening over there. But this is where it gets a little worrisome, guys, when you see the same area week after week pummeled by several feet of snow. You run into problems where we don't have places to put the snow. We can't get to certain individuals. Certain individuals can't get to their doctors or medicines, or maybe just basic supplies like food and water. We're going on over a week now of this dangerous winter weather that has just exploded across Europe right now. So we will keep our eyes on this situation. Also, the link will be in the description. Want to share a little homegrown news here, and this comes from the Starman. We have a couple of authors now on the grandsolarminimum.com website. It's still in progress of being developed, but we are getting there, and Starman wrote a paper for us today, and we decided to share it on the website. Standardized anomalies of the average tropical tropospheric temperature and Niño 3-4 SSTs. Now, this is important, guys. We will be covering another article as well, talking about the El Nino region, and I'll go over the numbers. Many questions have been asked in the relationship between troposphere and SST, OLR, and global temperatures. Included in the graph below are some time series of 3-month running average standardized tropical tropospheric temperatures anomalies in blue, and the 3-month running averages of standardized Nino 3-4 sea surface temperature anomalies in red. Guys, I invite you to take a look at this article over at the website when you get a chance. Look at these graphs. He has done an awesome job at correlating everything, folks. This is very, very good work. Starman does his own research, does his own graphs, so these are not fed to him. This is his own work. It says here the standardized tropospheric temperature anomalies are averaged around the globe from 25 degrees south to 25 degrees north, and from 850 HPA pressure level to 200 HPA. The climatological pace period for the atmospheric temperature in 1981 to 2010, and the base period used for sea surface temperature anomalies is 1971 through 2000. Niño 3-4 region, top right, shows a strong correlation to the UAH global temperature anomaly, bottom right, and insert the top left is the TLT, temperature of lower troposphere. Obviously, the strength of solar radiation at the equator is the driver of both SST and global temperatures. Currently, the OLR is currently not operationally derived, and it's planned to generate an operational product from the Mesostat third generation flexible combined imager, or the MTG FCI for short. And variations in the OLR reflect response of Earth's atmosphere system to solar diurnal forcing. Those variations can be found in particular in surface temperature, cloud cover, cloud top height, and related qualities like precipitation. So why is it included in global modeling program? The following graph is OLR, INSO, and global T. And again, everything lines up with the UAHA. Amazing, isn't it? Earth's climate is set by a balance between incoming solar and outgoing infrared radiation. The physical processes that influence this balance of complex and nonlinear, yet models and satellite measurements counterintuitively show that Earth's infrared radiation is simply a linear function of surface temperature. Explain why. Linearity is due to the cancellation of two nonlinear processes and always rises in the atmosphere dominated by condensable greenhouse gas. This explains fundamental property of Earth's climate and has implications for climate variability as well as the climates of extrasolar planets with exotic greenhouse gases, pursuing the theory that CO2 is the climate driver of any planet with an atmosphere is fundamentally wrong on all levels, and until we negate away from the idea, we will never understand why current models fail. Where does the data and global temperature trend presented by NASA GISS fit anywhere into the above breakdown? My answer to you is simply it does not fit. It does not fit. Hence, I pixelated the frame based on current satellite observations. Question is why 1 to 2 watts per square meter is such a big deal. The answer is obvious. It reflects global temperatures. If the current pattern of OLL VE carries towards or forward, temperatures will react accordingly. Watch this space. Yours truly, David the Starman. Thank you very much, folks. We'll leave the link in the description. Take a look at the graphs, but again, showing the correlation between OLR, INSO, and UAH. A very good piece here by the Starman, and we do appreciate your efforts as well. Thank you for allowing us to share this work with our subscribers here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. All right, taking a look at another article here.
That's his actual blog, so people can put both links in there.
Thank you, Mari, for putting this in here as well. If you folks want to check out Starman on his blog itself, we've left that link in the description as well, where the exact same paper will be correlated. Yeah, and here's another one, NOAA Ocean Nino Index. Starman's done a lot of work. We read this actual little card here off on one of our shows not too long ago.
We are going to be porting a lot of his articles over into the site
for reference,
because it's just really good reference. He's put a lot of work into analyzing the data, so definitely credit where credit's due. He deserves a spot hands down on our website for his articles, so
absolutely
super stoked he does this. Great job, Starman.
So here are the links to Starman's blog, and of course he will be co-authoring at times on our website as well. All right, so let's wander over to what's up with that. Here's a little article I found interesting. And I'm saying it like this because they're saying that the little ice age hundreds of years ago is still cooling the bottom of the Pacific. Apparently there's a lag in temperatures here. Researchers say the temperatures in the deep Pacific lag behind those at the surface. As a result, parts of the deep Pacific is now cooling from long ago little ice age. It goes on to read here, as much as the ocean responds to the rising temperature of today's worlds, the deep, dark waters at the bottom of the Pacific appear to be doing the exact opposite. A Harvard study found that parts of the deep Pacific may be getting cooler as a result of climate phenomenon that occurred hundreds of years ago. Around the 17th century, Earth had experienced a prolonged cooling period dubbed the Little Ice Age that brought chillier than average temperatures to much of the northern hemisphere. Though it's been centuries since this all played out, researchers say that the deep Pacific appears to lag behind waters closer to the surface and is still responding to the Little Ice Age. Interesting. Climate varies across all timescales, says Peter Hybers, a professor at Harvard John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Science. Some regional warming and cooling patterns like the Little Ice Age and Medieval Warm Period are well known. Our goal was to develop a model of how the interior properties of the ocean respond to changes in surface climate. The Medieval Warm Period was a period lasting between the 9th and the 12th century, during which Earth's climate leaned on the warmer side, if not the warmest period on Earth. It was followed by not long after a Little Ice Age, which lasted from the 16th through the 19th, and some will even argue that it started earlier than that. But according to researchers from the Woods Hole Oceanic Institution and Harvard University, this long-ago cooling period could still be showing its face in the temperatures of the deep ocean. If the surface ocean was generally cooling for the better part of the last millennium, those parts of the ocean most isolated from modern warming may still be cooling, says Jake Gebbe, a physical oceanographer at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. To test this, the team compared measurements taken from during the 1870s by scientists on HMS Challenger to modern data. And this goes on and on and on and on. And actually we get here at the bottom where it's the actual article is at physics.org if you care to read the remainder of the story. But very interesting to see that we're still dealing with the Pacific cooling from the Little Ice Age, still having effects. And possibly this cooling that's happening and continues to happen is what's been making the El Nino run amok. And here's what I'm talking about. Is the forecasted El Nino for this year fading away? It sure looks that way. And I don't mean to tell you from Anthony Watts, from myself, from other people in the Grand Solar Minimum community, ones like Starman as well, who has pointed it out, that the numbers from NOAA just don't match from what they're saying. They're still, look at this, guys. Here is the current anomaly map. Look at that. No warm blob, right? Look at the BOM sequence going back to October 18 compared to January 19. Look at this, month by month. Top is October, second is November. Then you have December. Now we're talking about January. Guys, this thing is fading out. Point blank. This is the part of the year or the cycle where we should see temperatures at 0.8 above baseline through 1.2 degrees Celsius above baseline. But here's what NOAA says. ENSO neutral conditions are present. Equatorial sea surface temperatures are above average across most of the Pacific Ocean, yes, but barely. The patterns of convection and winds are mostly near average over the tropical Pacific. This is the part that I tell NOAA it's more than just a river in Egypt. El Nino is expected to form and continue through the northern hemisphere winter of 2018 through 2019. A 90% chance, and through spring it still has a 60% chance. Look at this. Where in the world are we talking about? How does anyone have any confidence in an El Nino to continue? Here we are. Let's see if that's most current. Refresh the page. Wow, it dropped. It was at a 0.251 above baseline. It has since dropped to a 0.234 above baseline. Folks, we are neutral. This is not El Nino strength. It's going the opposite way since just after Christmas. A significant amount. It's dropped more than it stayed. There for a while, we were looking at temperatures kind of stabilizing at that 0.5, that barely Modaki El Nino range. Look at it. So, chance that we see a neutral and heading into a La Nina, much colder 2020 winter, and much less solar activity. Holy cow. And this one's a late starter this winter. So many people who have challenged me about why we haven't seen as much snow, why we haven't seen as much cold air. And boy, you know, Europe is really getting theirs, and we're about to get ours very soon, starting with the Northeast and the eastern part of the United States. Now, the new weather system that will impact parts of the Midwest, South, East, late this week into the weekend. Guys, let's go to the weather maps here real quick. I want to use my handy-dandy arrow to prove a point. The old Farmer's Almanac pointed out that we were going to be dealing with what they called a battle zone region. I can't get this to work. That's unfortunate. But I'll show you my arrow. Right along this area right here is what the old Farmer's Almanac was talking about for ice and snow. Okay, and from right about here to this part of the country was going to be affected with cold and snow, especially here in the Northeast, cold and snowy, colder than average, and a little bit more snow. And of course, you know, December, after the snowy November we had, December was an average month, mid-30s, mid-40s in most places. Some people are still in the 50s and 60s. Take a look at our current radar right now. We have some light snow showers beginning to fall in parts of the country in the east. And let's go ahead and take a look, as this is super slow, so maybe we won't look at that yet. But looking at this widespread snow in some ice parts of Midwest to the Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic by this weekend, here's a map showing where the cold air, and take a look. This low pressure system that starts here in Texas is tracking along the south, and that cold air is basically invading the south. So right when we were talking about the danger zone, the south battle zone, it's happening, okay? And Joe Bastardi over at weatherbell.com gives his little forecast, and he's also reminding folks that their forecast for their winter of severe weather, winter weather that is, snow and cold, is still on track to take place. So he is confident after what he's seen on the models, and I'll show you guys here in a little bit too. Looking at this weekend snowstorm, guys, I said around the 12th, 13th, 14th, Ohio will see their first decent little snowstorm. And Dayton, my family in Dayton and southward, you will see at least anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of snow. Nothing major, but what we're concerned about is parts of Kentucky with getting that mix of freezing rain and snow and ice. So a lot to watch over Friday into Sunday night. And still, even then, you guys will still see light snow in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. The heavier stuff moving to the Atlantic states into Virginia, Washington, D.C., watch out, you could get some snow as well. Now, they don't want to give anyone exact totals. Okay, it's only Wednesday, but, you know, the storm's starting on Friday. But looking at this graph right here, I'd say Columbus, you're looking at a possibility of 2 to 4. Anything I-70 and southward in the Dayton area, you're probably going to get 3 to 5, possibly a localized 6 to 8 inches. The further south you are, believe it or not, the further south you are of I-70 is a chance of heavier snow. But then we have that mixed precipitation as well in northern Kentucky. But look at this, St. Louis, Louisville, you guys will see close to a foot of snow. The mountains of Roanoke, also over a foot of snow. Virginia, West Virginia, snowfall. D.C. looks like 3 to 5, maybe possibly 6 to 8 in some localized areas. But this snowstorm starts Friday and goes all the way through the weekend. So we will monitor this and see if the Weather Channel gives it a cute name or anything. And maybe do a little video if it causes any mess or any kind of ruckus as we go through the weekend. All right, so this weather map doesn't want to load, and that's fine. I can just tell you right now that we're looking at snow showers in the northeast right now, from Ohio, Pennsylvania, western New York, into parts of Maine and Connecticut, New Hampshire also as well. Guys, still focusing on the northeast. They are continuing to get pummeled right now as we speak. And Oregon, Washington, snow and rain, you get a day or two. And then now California, you have a major low pressure system approaching you on the weekend for the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Now the GFS is actually taking the intensity from that storm down way much where it was just the other day. Here's that Atlantic storm that we were talking about moving off into the east. You'll see 2 waves of snow kind of kick up from this. And then we get another low pressure system on the coast of California by the 14th. So the first one's weakened, but this one's still coming in strong as has been predicted. Sierra, you're looking at probably feet of snow with this system. Meanwhile, that cold air starts to take place and settle into the northern part of the country. More rain and snow in Northern California all the way to the Baja area of Mexico, into the northwest once again. Meanwhile, another low pressure system trekking up near Indiana, the Ohio Valley, and quickly dissipating as high pressure is dominating in this area through the 17th of January. All right, so looking at the northwest, more of the same. Rain and snow in the mountains, rain at the lower elevations, and just a big giant mess on the 19th of January, looking at snow and rain everywhere in the western part of the United States. That starts to move out around the 18th, and a low pressure system is trying to get its act together across from Texas all the way through Michigan, the UP, into parts of southern Canada. And I watch the story when we get to the 19th. Now, most of the Midwest is going to get rain from this, but us in the northeast, and the storm behind it is going to usher in more colder air. Now, this has changed since earlier. So January 19th, it's a Saturday, next weekend, we are watching this potential storm, and it still has the signatures where it could potentially hang out into the northeast Atlantic as a nor'easter. By the time we get to Sunday, January 22nd, that storm moves out. Another big low pressure system moving across the Midwest once again into the Ohio Valley, back into the northeast on the 22nd. This is Tuesday. This snow does not look as significant as the weekend snow that we will supposed to be getting. Expect heavy amounts for the weekend, and then Tuesday could be just an additional 3 to 5 inches for most of us in New York. But as you head further into New England and the northeast, that could change into heavier snowfall into the 23rd. And then look at this, January 23rd, right over Oklahoma, another low pressure system. Kansas, you're going to get some decent snow. Wichita, Kansas City, this system will take a dive into the south. And this is where the really cold air starts to make its way into the northern United States and the northeast. This storm right now, and if I stop and go out, I can already see high pressure in the region, but there more than likely is a good chance that we have a high pressure blocking situation in Greenland at this point. Check out what we're looking at on January 25th. So from January 19th, if you live in upstate New York period, northeast Pennsylvania, and the rest of the northeast, from January 19th, it is very possible that we could see 3 systems move into the area and drop several inches of snow in most locations if you are in this part of the woods. Now, I want to show you the temperature outlook as well, because that to me is significant. This has changed a little bit. We were seeing the milder temperatures trying to fight and stay. And as you see right here, we get through January 8th, and now that cold air starts to invade the United States by the 10th. A little bit colder, pushing down, 30s and 40s in the south. Look at this. Friday, we have 30s and 20s in the deep south. little bit of recovery through the daytime highs. Nighttime highs in the northeast, look out, near sub-zero temperatures, okay? The 12th, this is just the first weak wave of cold blast Arctic air. We're going to see a little bit more intense colder air here past the 16th. January 13th, overnight lows, pretty cold for much of the United States. Not rebounding much during the day, 30s and 40s. Again, not terribly mild, but not terribly cold. But here's where we start to see more cold air filter down from the Arctic. On the 14th of January, temperatures fighting to stay in the 30s. And overnight temperatures, we see more Arctic air coming in by the 15th, slowly but surely, 16th of January, pushing that mild air even further south. That sub-zero air will make it to the northeast by the 17th of January. We did not have any forecast of sub-zero temperatures for the 17th as of Monday when we did our broadcast. But once we get past the 17th, any hopes of having a mild winter in the north, the east, the south, and the northeast past January 19th is out of the cards as we see that Arctic air working its way. And look at that deep freeze. January 22nd, sub-zero temperatures, Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, parts of the northeast. This negative zero stuff could go all the way down into northern Iowa as well. Ohio, parts of Ohio, you'll feel the cold from this. Look at this, single-digit temperatures on Wednesday in the Midwest, the Greater Lakes. And by the 23rd of January, once again, sub-zero temperatures return to the region of the northeast. Meanwhile, behind it, more cold, freezing air. By the 25th, we have a possible sit-up situation right now where we can see another very cold shot of Arctic air reaching the Midwest and the east. So it looks like right now that we are starting to see the effects of this polar vortex. We're starting to see the delayed reactions from the sudden stratospheric warming event that's happening right now in the Arctic. And all of those folks out there who are asking, where's the snow at? Where's the cold? It's coming. And showing you pictures of what's happening in Europe, and I'm thankful that we're not dealing with that right now. But looking at these forecast models, especially for GFS, and GFS is usually the weaker of all the models. Euro has it a lot worse. So if we're looking at the best case scenario, what's the worst case scenario at this point? 3 major snowstorms from the 19th of January through the 25th of January. And also a huge cool down between that period of time as well, with single digit to zero lows and temperatures in the high teens and the low 20s throughout the east and the northeast. So winter is here, guys. Buckle up. Today, if you lived in the northeast, New York area and further north, you will not see temperatures above 30 after tonight. We are now dropping into the 20s as we speak, and we will see temperatures not get out of the teens. Possibility lows in the morning could be around 7 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit for us tomorrow morning. Look at this, guys. Here we go. El Nino temperatures. That's the most current temperature reading from this region. And I can tell you right now, with the string of 27s, and this right here, guys, this area has been in the 30s. It's dropping down here now. But we already know it's dropping here. We've been saying it for a long time, even back in November and August and June. The temperatures in this region were not supporting an El Nino situation. And what's funny is how NOAA has been so confident and continue to push the 90% chance for El Nino. There's still a 90% chance from NOAA. That's the confidence level right now of an El Nino event happening late winter. We had other people predicting it happening in January. It ain't happening. Okay, it's getting shut down unless some freak warm-up event happens. Because now, not only are we losing surface temperature now, but we're seeing papers that's being thrown out there from people at Harvard saying, oh, by the way, the cooling effect is still happening in the deep parts of the Pacific. I'd say that has a pretty good reason why we're seeing lower temperatures. See, people at NOAA don't want to factor in these things of what happened during the Little Ice Age. They don't want to factor in that the temperatures are lagging. They don't want to factor anything that has to do with solar activity. Once again, talking about the sun is just inconvenient. So when NOAA does their models and they give out garbage numbers like they have 90% confidence, you know for a fact they're not using anything that factors in what's happening with solar activity, lack of it, and cooling in the deep parts of the Pacific still, affected by the little ice age. Believe it or not. There's more to that link. There's more to that paper. I advise everyone to take a look at it, get familiar with it so we can understand why we're still seeing cooling effects in the Pacific, and which is interesting because even though we were still cooling in 15 and 16, we had what they called a major El Nino. But by the way, folks, there was nothing major about that El Nino event as well. They called it a super, and we showed you data that does not indicate that we had a super El Nino in 15 and 16. That also was a lie. I'm starting to feel like I'm on the Maury Povich show right now, where I'm reading the results of the lie detector test. That too was a lie. NOAA says that they have a 90% chance of El Nino happening late January, February. You told everyone that was true. It has also been determined that that's a lie. NOAA is not the father of the climate. All right? NOAA is not the father of the climate. We'll have to continue to do more tests because NOAA, you are not the father. All right. I've shown that ice baby. That's all I'm going to say. Take a look at where we are. All right. Right here. It's very small. Look how close we are to that average line, guys. Look at that. And yeah, and Al Gore and his cronies are talking about, oh, the ice is melting. Well, I'm going to add 2018. Show you guys. Look at the gap between the orange line, which is current, and the blue for 18. We're already going to surpass 2018 ice growth. We already did. We gained more ice from 18 to 19. We were gaining more ice from 17 to 18. We are on the upward trend of growing ice and the downward trend of temperatures, okay? I don't know how else to show you guys this. 2017, look at this, just to show you guys as well. We're already gaining more ice than we were in 2017. 2016, look at that. We're also on track to gain more ice than where we were at 2016. Now, mind you, it was very warm, 14, 15, and 16. But even then so, look at that, 15 and 14, we're still slightly above. But we are on track to hit, right now, in my opinion, 2012, 2013 numbers, if you want to be honest here. I mean, that's realistic in my opinion. Maybe I'm overshooting it by a little bit, but you get the point, guys. We're growing in ice. We're not melting. So forget what you heard on the mainstream media. They're half full of fake news anyway. That's another. That's another show. We won't get into that right now. Taking a look at the sea ice extent for January 8th, guys, we are full. Very slight areas that are not already full to the rim of where the ice should be. I remember looking at areas out here last year, and we did not have all of this ice. Neither did we have it back here either. This and this right here, other than that, we're ice everywhere. We should be having ice right now. And that's going to continue to improve, especially now that we're going to see much colder temperatures affecting the northern hemisphere as we go through this winter season and into the spring. And right now, guys, there's a lot of talk that we're looking at a cool spring and a cool summer. So with a developing La Nina possible, if we stay neutral, we'll have to keep an eye on INSO and see what happens next. All right, so that's going to do it for me tonight. Mari, I was going to bring you over real quick and see if there's anything you had to say. Tell everyone hello in the chat.
I had to apologize earlier. I'm on a Windows keyboard. I'm usually on a Mac, and I'm like cutting and pasting. Oh my god, just like I'm typing like an idiot. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm so slow in the chat. Towards the end, I got used to it. Someone actually did a super chat. I just want to thank them, but since I'm in between machines, I had to take a screenshot on my phone just to keep it. St. Louis Arch, they appreciate us and
thank you very much.
Get a kick out of the content we have. A lot of people, a few people complimented us on the website. I'm super proud of it. I'm sorry. If you could see me how obsessive I am over the website right now. It's like day and night, just tweak, trying to get it to work. Jake will attest.
Pretty much.
To me, he'll be like, stop.
Put it down.
Just put it down. Stop it. So, but I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to report, Jake.
No problem.
You cracked me up with
You are not the father of the climate, Noah.
Seriously, Jake.
Well, that's what it felt like. Everything I talk about from Noah is a lie. So, anyway. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to Wednesday night edition of Grand Solar Minimum Channel. We will be back Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time for another Grand Solar Minimum update. If anything happens, we will, of course, break through with any breaking news. But until then, guys, we will talk soon. Take care. Have a good rest of your week.